Welcome to the Morning Book, where we explore books one morning at a time.
Glad to be here.
Today, we're diving into The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins.
Ah, yes, Mel Robbins. She's obviously a huge name, New York Times bestseller, expert on mindset, motivation, all that good stuff.
Definitely. And this book, The Let Them Theory, it centers on this, well, deceptively simple idea, doesn't it?
It really does. Just two words, let them. The core idea is that learning to embrace this phrase can, free you up from obsessing over other people's opinions, their drama, their judgment.
Freeing you up to focus on what actually matters to you.
Exactly. That's what we really want to unpack today.
Okay, so let's jump right in. One of the first things Robbins hits on is something I think, well, pretty much everyone does.
Yeah.
Giving way too much power to other people.
Trying to control what they think, what they do.
Yeah. Like choosing your words so carefully just to get a certain reaction or, bending over backwards so someone isn't disappointed.
Or just constantly smoothing things over, trying to keep the peace so nobody judges you. It takes a lot of energy.
It's totally exhausting, isn't it?
It really is. And she shares this great little story about her son, Oakley, and his prom. Very relatable.
Right, the urge to kind of micromanage it all, make sure he's having the perfect time.
Exactly, that parental instinct to control the details, the outcome. But she realized, when she actually stepped back, when she just let him experience it his way.
It turned out better anyway.
Yeah, better than anything she could have engineered. It's funny how that happens sometimes, isn't it? When you just release that grip a little.
It is, and she argues this isn't just like a personality quirk, this need for control.
No, she frames it as something deeper, like fundamental human
It's
nature.
driven by fear, basically.
Right, fear of, being excluded, fear of not being liked, fear things will just fall apart if we're not constantly steering the ship.
Which is ironic,
Yeah.
because she points out that trying to control other people.
That just ramps up your own anxiety and stress. You end up more wound up than anyone else.
Because you can't actually control them anyway.
Not really. Exactly. Their thoughts, their actions, ultimately, those are theirs.
So when she says let them, it's not about just, throwing your hands up and giving up.
Not at all. That's key. It's not resignation. It's actually presented as an act of liberation for yourself.
Okay.
It's like consciously choosing to release that white-knuckle grip on how you think things should go, letting reality be what it is.
And that frees up mental space.
Yeah.
Energy.
A huge amount. Energy you can then put towards the things you can actually influence, like your own thoughts, your own responses, your own actions. Imagine that.
Yeah, that sounds significantly less stressful.
Right. Okay, so speaking of stress, Robbins dives into that too. How things outside of us can trigger that internal stress response. Even small things.
Like her example of someone coughing on a plane.
Yeah.
I felt that one. My shoulders tense up just thinking about it.
Yeah, me too. And she brings in some neuroscience here, talking with Dr. Aditi Nurkar. When your brain senses a threat, even a perceived one, like a cough.
It goes into survival mode.
Pretty much. The planning, organizing part, the prefrontal cortex kind of goes offline for a bit. The CEO takes a break, like you said before.
So your rational thinking just dips.
Exactly. That's why we might overreact or feel way more anxious than the situation seems to warrant.
Okay, but how does let them help there? You
Yeah.
can't stop the person coughing.
No, you can't. But, and this is the crucial bit, you can control your response to it by shifting your focus internally.
To your breathing, maybe.
I
Or
think-
just reminding yourself it's probably nothing.
Yes, focusing on what is within your control, your thoughts, your physical response. That act of consciously shifting focus helps dial down the stress and brings that prefrontal cortex back online. You regain control over yourself.
It's about where you place your attention.
Precisely. She uses another example, the one about being strung along for a promotion at work, that feeling of unfairness.
Oh yeah, that's a frustrating one. Easy to get stuck there.
Totally. The default is anger, frustration, feeling powerless, but the let them reframe is powerful.
Let them string you along.
Yeah.
It sounds counterintuitive at first.
It does. But it's not about saying the unfairness is okay. It's about saying, okay, I can't control their decision-making process, but I can control my career.
So instead of obsessing over them,
You channel that energy into finding a place that does recognize your value. You take back control of your own situation. It's a strategic shift.
okay, that makes sense. It puts the power back in your hands.
Yeah.
Which leads kind of naturally to another big topic, comparison.
Comparison. The thief of joy, as they say.
Right. Robbins talks about two types. One sounds pretty painful self-torture.
Yeah, that's her term for that upward comparison trap, constantly looking at people who seem to have more, be more, do more.
And feeling worse about yourself as a result.
Exactly. Research backs that up. It chips away at self-esteem. You focus on lack. We've all been there, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Uh,
Especially with social media these days. It's constant.
yeah, it is. But she argues comparison isn't all bad. It can actually teach us things.
Okay, how?
Well, first, there's downward comparison, just recognizing your own fortune compared to others. That can breed gratitude, which is helpful.
A good antidote to envy.
For sure. But even that upward comparison, the self-torture kind, can be flipped.
Really?
Yeah, think about the story of Molly, the interior designer. She was getting really irritated and jealous of someone else blowing up on social media, someone she felt didn't have the same experience.
Right, that initial reaction is just annoyance, dismissal.
But Robbins reframes it. That annoying person was actually highlighting something important for Molly.
The thing Molly was avoiding.
Yeah.
Social media.
Exactly. The other person's success wasn't taking anything away from Molly. It was showing her a path, maybe an uncomfortable one, but a potential path for her own growth.
So that feeling of jealousy, it's like a signal.
It can be. Robbins suggests looking at the jealousy. What is it pointing to? What desire or need is it highlighting in you? Instead of just feeling bad, use it as information. Maybe even motivation.
Turn envy into inspiration, sort of.
You got it. It can be a doorway to figuring out your next step.
Okay, interesting perspective. Now, shifting gears a bit, friendships, especially adult friendships, they feel different, don't they?
Oh, definitely. Robbins has a great term for why. The great scattering.
The great scattering. I like that.
Yeah, we're not automatically thrown together like in school. Life pulls people everywhere, jobs, families, moves. It just takes more effort.
That's more intentionality, I find.
Absolutely. And she boils down the key ingredients for adult friendships to three things: proximity, timing, and energy.
Proximity just being near people.
Hmm.
Timing being in similar life phases or having similar availability.
And energy.
That mutual investment. Both people putting in the effort to keep it going. When those align, friendships tend to click more easily.
She talks about her own move, feeling lonely. Something a lot of people go through.
Yeah, and her big takeaway was realizing she had to go first.
Take the initiative. Exactly. You can't just wait for people to come to you, especially in a new place. You have to be the one to say hello, introduce yourself, suggest grabbing coffee, actively build it.
That takes some courage sometimes.
It does. And she also mentioned something interesting, the value of weak ties.
Weak ties. Like acquaintances.
Yeah, the barista you see every morning, the person in a gym, the neighbor you wave to. Not deep friendships, but they create that feeling of community.
A sense of belonging, even in small ways.
Right. And Robbins says nurturing those, even just with a friendly hello, combats isolation. And sometimes those weak ties can actually develop into stronger ones over time.
So it's about being proactive. Joining things like she suggests, classes or groups.
Uh-huh. And then taking the next step, suggesting something outside that context, building those individual connections, maybe even creating group things. It's work, but worth it.
Definitely. Okay, another area where that let them idea feels really relevant is with people we love, wanting them to change for their own good.
Oh, that's a big one, isn't it? Seeing someone you care about making choices you think are, well, not great for them. Health stuff, career paths, relationships.
And your instinct is to jump in, give advice, maybe even push a little.
But as Robbins points out, drawing on Dr. Ulla Kanogia, Dr. Pei, that pressure usually backfires.
Why is that again?
Because people resist being controlled. Dr. K talks about motivational circuitry. We move towards pleasure and avoid pain now. Pressuring someone often feels like asking them to embrace immediate discomfort for a future uncertain benefit.
So nagging just makes them dig their heels in more.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And it can create this internal tension for them, too. They might know they should change, but the external pressure makes it harder, not easier.
So what's the alternative? Robbins offers the ABC loop, right?
Yes, a much more effective approach. A is apologize, acknowledge that your pressuring hasn't helped.
Start fresh.
Exactly. B is ask. Open-ended questions like motivational interviewing. Get them talking about their thoughts, their feelings, without you leading the witness.
Let them explore it themselves.
Right. And C is crucial. Back off. Stop the pressure. Observe. Maybe model the change yourself. And, importantly, celebrate any small step they take in the right direction.
Make it feel like their idea, their choice.
That's the goal. Support, don't push. Guide, don't force. It respects their autonomy.
Which ties into another really important distinction she makes. Helping versus rescuing.
Yes, this is so key. There's a difference between being supportive when someone's truly struggling, maybe in a crisis, and constantly jumping in to save adults from the consequences of their own actions or patterns.
Because always rescuing them, it can actually hold them back.
It really can. Robin says you can't want someone's healing more than they do. If you're always fixing things for them, they don't learn to cope, they don't find their own strength.
Sometimes facing the natural consequences is part of the process.
Within reason, yes. It can be a powerful catalyst for change. Allowing people to learn from their experiences, even the tough ones, is often essential for growth.
She uses the example of her daughter's fear of sleeping alone again here, doesn't she?
Right. Initially, trying to avoid the fear by letting her sleep on their floor just made the anxiety stick around longer.
It reinforced the fear.
Exactly. It wasn't until they gently supported her in facing the fear, being there for her through it, that she actually overcame it. Growth happens when we confront things, not when we're constantly shielded from them.
So our role is more about support and belief than intervention.
Yes. Be that beacon of hope, as Robbins puts it. Believe in their capacity to get through it, even when they doubt themselves. Offer support, resources, encouragement, but let them walk their own path.
Okay, let's shift now to love and relationships. Always a complex area.
Indeed. And Robbins has some really practical, almost blunt advice here.
Starting with the idea that finding love isn't about saying yes more often.
Right. It's actually more about knowing what you want and being willing to say no to what doesn't fit. Value yourself, be authentic, let the wrong ones filter themselves out.
And she has that line about confusion that really hit home for me.
Oh, if they like you, you'll know. If they don't, you'll be confused.
Powerful, right?
Yeah.
So powerful. Stop making excuses for mixed signals or flaky behavior.
Exactly. Let their actions, or lack thereof, be the clear message. Don't invest where there isn't clear, consistent interest.
She also touches on that pattern some people fall into, chasing unavailable people.
Yes, and encourages reflection. Is this a habit? Why might that be? Understanding the pattern is the first step to changing it.
And she brings in Matthew Hussey's advice too. Focus on your time, your value.
Right. Don't waste energy trying to convince someone you're worth it. Focus on what you want and who aligns with that.
And for people in relationships, she stresses accepting your partner as they are now.
Not their potential, not who you wish they were, accepting the whole person, flaws and all. Constantly trying to change someone is a recipe for resentment.
It really is. And she gives that tip for handling complaints too.
Yeah, letting it hang in the air. Don't immediately jump to fix or defend. Pause. Let them feel their feeling.
Then ask those open-ended questions again.
Exactly. Help them explore it. What's coming up for you? What would make this feel better for you? Encourage their self-reflection.
Which leads to maybe a harder truth, the Gottman research she mentions, that some problems just aren't solvable.
Yeah, that 69% figure is startling, isn't it? So many conflicts are rooted in fundamental differences.
So the goal isn't always resolution.
Sometimes it's about learning to manage the difference, finding ways to live with it, focusing on the good, or recognizing if the difference touches on a core value that requires making a really tough decision.
And if things do end, heartbreak. She talks about that as grief.
Which is so validating. It is a loss. It needs time, processing. She suggests that initial no-contact period, maybe 30 days, just to calm the nervous system, break the habit of reaching out.
And allowing yourself time and space to heal. Self-care.
Absolutely. Be kind to yourself. It's a process.
You know, through all these different scenarios, work, friends, partners, the thread that runs through it all seems to be bringing it back to yourself.
That's definitely the ultimate message.
Yeah.
The relationship you have with yourself is the foundation for everything else.
Giving yourself permission to be happy, to chase what you want.
Yes. Stop waiting for external validation or circumstances to be perfect. Everything you're looking for, acceptance, peace, joy, it starts with how you treat yourself, how you talk to yourself.
And that final provocative thought she leaves us with.
Yeah. What could you actually achieve? What could you build if you took all that energy you spend resisting reality, trying to control the uncontrollable?
And redirected it towards what you actually want, towards things you can influence.
Imagine the possibilities. It really comes down to taking responsibility for your own experience, controlling what you can control, your thoughts, your words, your actions, and letting the rest,
Let them.
let them.
Wow. This has been a really fantastic exploration of the let them theory by Mel Robbins. Lots to think about.
Definitely. It's simple in concept, but applying it consistently, that's where the real work and the real freedom lies.
We hope this deep dive gave you some useful takeaways for your own life.
Remember, it's a practice, not perfection. Be patient with yourself as you try these ideas out.
If you enjoyed our discussion this morning, please do subscribe to the Morning Book. That way, you won't miss out on our next dive into another great read.
And if someone you know is maybe struggling with control or comparison or navigating relationships, feel free to share this deep dive with them. They might find it helpful too.
Absolutely. And don't forget, you can find a link right in our show notes to grab a copy of The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins if you want to explore these concepts further yourself.
Highly recommend it.
Thanks so much for tuning in to the Morning Book.